Ahora sí, ¿no? Bueno, pues vamos a ir prosiguiendo para entrar ya en
So we are going to continue now, because we are coming to the end of today's discussions. But we wanted this end to be not a cul-de-sac, but, well, as I said this morning, here we have the exact quote by Camus, so the only way of opening doors up. And that's what we are hoping these two women will do for us today, open the doors for us. Karimah Ashadu, who is a visual artist, and Agnès Llobet, who is an poet and an actress.
This is not on though, it's not working. Hello. Mike? Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Hello, good evening. I want to thank you all for being here, and also many thanks to Sandra for the invitation. The liberty of truth. One always finds one's burden again, but Sisyphus teaches the higher fidelity that negates the gods and raises rocks. He too concludes that all is well. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Camus. The more adversities I face, the more I grow. Not only towards fulfilling my life's potential, but on a level of evolving and gaining momentum. And within that momentum, to be still enough to receive the wisdom of one's intuition. I have learned to realize that adversities bring us closer to discovering the truth about who we are. That is especially true when we use these challenging instances as opportunities for growth. Believe me, it's easier said than done. I like to think that I've mastered the art of staying calm in the eye of the storm, sometimes even finding humor in the whole situation. Once the initial hit subsides, I relax into the unknown and allow life to steer me. From this place of least resistance and receiving, I find myself not desperate for a resolution per se, but eager to understand what juicy life lesson I'm in for. And it's important to know that this isn't a passive space, but rather a deeply conscious and aware space. And from this place, one is able to find some sense of joy. That hour, like a breathing space, which returns as surely as his suffering, that is the hour of consciousness. And each of those moments when he leaves the heights and gradually sinks towards the lairs of the gods, he is superior to his fate. He is stronger than his rock. Camus. The myth of Sisyphus. Sometimes we lie to ourselves in order to placate ourselves from the discomfort we're feeling about any particular thing or situation. But if we are not constantly seeking truth, we stagnate. And this is where a deep sense of unrest and dissatisfaction sets in. But inasmuch as it is uncomfortable to feel the heavy, irritating, niggling, or whatever it is this feeling that we're required to lean into in order to move towards feeling the opposite. But I suppose this resistance that we might feel is knowing that the minute that we confront the truth, we set about an unavoidable and uncomfortable dismantling, and nobody wants that. As Camus says, there exists an obvious fact that seems utterly moral, namely that a man is always a prey to his truths. Once he has admitted them, he cannot free himself from them. One has to pay something. In the moments that we lie to ourselves, we might allow the opinions of others to override our own, to the extent where we are living for them rather than ourselves. I have come to realize that the opinion of others above one's own is perhaps a sign that one is not living towards their fullest potential. And uncovering what is at the root of this cause is quite simple. We already know. Our intuition tells us. So intuition is at the heart of truth. It is our guiding compass. When you're honestly leading your life from this place, that is, upholding your values above anyone else's, seeking your own happiness and fulfillment first before tending to another's, healing trauma, then the opinion of others shouldn't matter so much that you decide to stay in a job that doesn't bring you joy, or a marriage that does not meet your needs, or live from a place of fear rather than curiosity and love. I've found that it does help to be somebody who isn't risk adverse, and a spirit of adventure is also useful. I'm told that living this way is a luxury, and I agree. It is an absolute luxury that I've had to cultivate for myself out of a myriad of seemingly sour experiences. You could play, I have some film stills that we could play alongside me talking, and then I'll share a little short excerpt of my work at the end.
The video now?
No, the slide, the pictures, yeah.
We have a little problem with that.
Okay. Oh, we can skip that then. Oh, okay. We can skip it, it's fine, yeah. Oh, okay. Oh. No. Okay. Should I carry on, yeah? The labor of resilience. I'm going to quote Camus again. The workman of today works every day in his life in the same tasks. But it is tragic only in the rare moments it becomes conscious. Sisyphus knows the whole extent of his wretched condition. It is what he thinks of during his descent. If the descent is sometimes performed in sorrow, it can also take place in joy. I make films about labor in West Africa and the diaspora, specifically Nigeria, where I'm from. And I don't consider myself a documentary filmmaker per se, but the impartiality to which I present my subjects lends others to think otherwise. When I consider my practice, I understand that its intrigue is in this somewhat objective approach. Looking at a recent work like Plateau, this is where the slides would come in. Oh, they're here. Magic. Looking at a recent work like Plateau, where I explore tin mining in Nigeria's Jos Plateau state. We can show, skip through. And though the subject matter and historical context is triggering, the conceptual approach of the work, such as the roving camera movement, creates a distance and also an intimacy. And in this ambiguous space, the viewer has an almost tangible view into the world of these miners, but at the same time, they're unable to grasp it in its entirety. Labor is a difficult subject, especially when it's black bodies laboring on screen. To speak one's truth, or any truth for that matter, takes courage. I remember once partaking in a seminar some years ago in the United States. It was my first time in the States, and as a black African living in the motherland, as they referred to the continent, I was somewhat naive to the experiences of African Americans. Countries that I make work in, such as Nigeria, are considered developing, and in this context, labor is ubiquitous. It is something one frequently encounters. In my work, I consider labor in an empowering way. I view it as a practice towards independence. But this fell on deaf ears at this particular seminar. They were outraged that I was not so focused on the race of the workers or the fact that they were even physically laboring at all. But I was more concerned with conceptual sentiments of filmmaking, such as an exploration of space, of rhythm, of pace, a playfulness even. When I think of works like Makoko Sawmill, where I probe in the space of the camera with 2 blue sticks. It's a work that I made about 8 years ago. So I wasn't very popular at this seminar, and I was fine with it. My work isn't for everyone. This perspective takes a certain confidence, and that confidence requires regular nurturing and affirming. Because when you go against the grain, and you hold a conscious vision of how you wish to participate in the world, truth and its resilience becomes your backbone. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Vulvirum hasi vulde akwai pierre de tout da yasi inde wurum akaye diyeme tintin kamasere yep yasi pende wurum ajut di amfani sosai amma to check da yasi very important related yep di vulvirum iya kande yep ye rarayuwa ikogwa kada hote yep ikonde akwai insha yep yaras kada hote ile unhugora yep yaras akwai raga yep yasiras bure raga yep yasiras kada sede kada ho yera gu yep zonku tinta vonkutea ndan ho wadi tuyo hoponse yebo yasiras kene henuna we wurum ka horare di wurum asikyo sugo wurum asikyo rayu kada ho surume ya mama ikarara kada ho chaidu fuga ka ho tiga ka se rayuwa yebde yasivo dagwi anon yeb reto de rayu ikogwa kuma no de wurum ase kada ho jurum yingamo iwel plateau ka ho jura vogwa duk Padi jede de urumase urumi yadara sayame urivog niri ken de yevog niri
Thank you.
La veritat s'ha de construir, com l'amor, com la intel·ligència. Per mi el trampolí primer és el desig de posar les paraules al servei d'una transformació.
Truth must be built
Col·locar-les al bell mig
just
de la
like
condició
love
humana per
as
fer-la cruixir.
intelligence. For me, the springboard first is the desire to put words at the service of a transformation, to place them in the middle of the human condition,
Que és impossible, sí anar cap a ella.
to make it crunch.
Intent treballar des de la
Perhaps
premissa
try to solve
aquí i ara.
despite the awareness that the task is impossible, we try to go towards it. I try to work from the premise, here and now, at every moment, action by action, physical or verbal action. The construction of truth. A truth in the artistic plane implies process, commitment, dedication, acceptance of imbalance. Construct truth, build truth as a research process to understand the world, the human condition, and the dialogue between them. Remake the world, move it, drag it, stretch, and push.
La condició humana i el diàleg entre ells. Refer el món.
So this remaking the world, this moving it, this dragging it, stretching and pushing it, the responsibility of every creator, questioning, dynamiting, deconstructing the world, served, accepted thinking, the emotional space that we have conditioned to live our day-to-day, our common life, and to use the transformative power of the word to go somewhere else, to inhabit another truth. Truth understood as in space. The artistic habitat where we can feel violent and protected at the same time, in order to allow ourselves, the greatest number of people, the entire community, to revolutionize our whole person, our body, our thinking. Name, capability, or attempt of being worthy. I love dramatic action since I was a child. And I don't know yet where that bond came from. I believe in verbal action, the demand of the need to give option to the elaboration of other truths, these other worlds, the possibility of doing so, and also the choice each one has to go towards that possibility, to choose the great mystery, this perpetual coming and going from myself to others that forges me as an artist, as Camus said. Each of us. That also forges each and every one of us, being a free person who has the option to enter in a theatre, contemplating the scene, and allowing actively. It is a choice. Allow for this collective transformation, and the theatre must project the collective realization of a man's thought, as he said. The stronger the momentum, the energy of the creation, the more dust we lift in the patch path. Let's leave behind the chaos of an explosion, a collapsing star, red as the fire of this tongue that longs for the courage of prodigies. And I write, as one more, we are daughters of times that only leave carnages. Stopped at the table, and I write like so many. We are mothers of the times that will feed on other beasts. This truth that must be built, and I understand it as a living, beating truth that you conceive, that feeds, and of which you must take care of. You have to float it, feed it, make its way, accompany it, and above all, you have to commit to it. Beckett advocated a sense of death and said that the artistic trend is not an expansion, but a contraction. A few years before I had my daughter, who recently turned 1 year old, I already dreamed her, longed for her, thought about her, built her. I was also afraid of her.
Al final em
Life?
van obrir el ventre, desperta,
Creating
sense
life?
anestèsic,
How was
per
it
poder-la
possible?
treure. Tema la vida, com en aquell moment m'era
It
impossible
was
entendre-ho.
also
Com podia
impressive
témer-hi,
how
com era possible, si
they could open up my
tot el que
belly
m'havia
to
sustentat
get
a mi
her out of
vitalment
me.
era
How could I
precisament
fear
aquesta
life?
tria,
How
crear.
could I fear creating a life? How was it possible? All that had sustained me was precisely this choice of being able to create. Create. And we don't even know who we are.
Crear és una tasca misteriosa,
Creating
meravellosament
is a
aterridora.
mysterious,
Transforma la manera de
wonderfully
sentir, de
frightening
percebre,
task.
d'amossegar, d'estimar.
It transforms the way you
Crear
feel,
és la voluntat
perceive,
suïcida que a vegades té
bite,
la
love.
consciència.
Creating
És
is
un
the
espai
suicidal
profund,
will that
enfronta
consciousness
el
sometimes
un
has.
combat
It
aferrissat
is
amb
a
les
deep
idees.
space-time that confronts you with the
He viscut
whole,
i segur que és un
a
espai
fierce
molt comú
fight
entre
with
els presents,
ideas.
en
I
una
have
constant
lived
espiral que
and
centrifuga
surely
tot
it
allò
is
que
a
sona, tot
common
allò que
space,
pensa o imagina.
in a
A cada
constant
moment,
spiral that
com un vòmit de
centrifuges
paraules, imatges,
everything
direccions,
that we
constant,
are, everything
que
that
mai es
thinks,
conforma,
feels,
que mai
images.
resta satisfet.
At every moment, a vomit of words, images and actions, constantly. Something that never settles and is never satisfied. And cyclically, there has also, it's time for the desire to silence for a while all that. Where to turn as not to give up? Where to drink from as not to give up? From what sources? The mysteries, the teachers, the collective, the group? Back to life. Build life. Speaking the truth. Building the truth. I understand this as putting yourself at the service of building an artistic life that allows us a constant rebirth from my most conscious self that must grow and develop to the most covered darkness that needs to be healed, liberated or disappeared. And how can one conceive, accompany, care or commit oneself if we're not doing it from love? Love as a driving force for salvation. All these words, love, truth, life, like many others, need a huge and generous amount of commitment, of faith in them. To build them, or at least to move towards building them, to face the task, I can only say that you constantly have to remember that all this you have to do is to be at the service of something that is greater than yourself, the service of a story with a social aspect, a character, a parliament, a verse. Call it what you need to call it, but it's something that is much bigger than yourself. And this thing, in capital letters, contains in itself the power to transform, to move lives in all its structures, emotional, intellectual, physical. Quantum physicists say that nothing touches in the universe, that nothing makes contact. There is only movement and change. Life needs movement, truth needs movement to be alive and will remain true. Love moves too, to move us. And perhaps we do cling to the task of transforming, because we reject the world as it is. I was waiting for her. I was waiting for my daughter with infinite love. And suddenly, everything I needed to get here, to be, a word, a name, I was unable to give it to her. That's everything she needed to be. It was one word, the panic of choosing the wrong word, but this also brought back to me the courage of wanting to create a world from which she would not want to disappear. And shy, a first letter came floating on my tongue. Lola. I hold you back. Your fragility spills among my fingers. I look at you. Are you looking at me? I smile. Are you smiling back to me? the open skull, to create the threshold towards our world, to get here. We arrive with our skulls open, and we need to maintain our faith in this path of construction when we drown under the lie, when we are cornered against the wall, as Camus said. Keep it quiet, he also said. Keep calm. In this sense, perhaps I would be more I would prefer to refer to the violence contained in this creative act, as Anne Bogart encourages to do. She talks about the violent act because the creative act requires making decisions and a commitment to do something. Committing to an election, to a choice, feels like something violent. It's the feeling of bouncing off a very high trampoline. It feels like something violent because making a decision is an aggression against nature and its inertia. And to build this other truth, you accept the infinite journey of searching for your own voice, of that human sieve through which one meaning takes place and not the other, the invisible universe hidden by words, and that manifests itself in the artistic action where you throw yourself. I am an actress perhaps who plays with the poetics of words, an actress who, perhaps too daring, sets out to write replicas of some of the characters. And to build this other truth from this being who loves their craft with excessive passion, I accept the obstacle course that stands in front of me at every step, each project as a process of struggle, with the only violent certainty that I don't want to give up my choice in spite of the precarious hiring, the implausible conditions of distributors. I want to fight against the prejudices about my profession, the cliches and incredible ignorance that there is about what an actress does, the superficiality that flies over the general gaze of what an actress should be. These other truths are also built. Then intelligence is another ally, inseparable ally for the path. Built intelligence understood as the path of effort, perseverance, study, the fact of constantly nourishing oneself, experimentation, research, the constant training of your instrument, the mind, the body, the experience of life, the incessant questioning of everything. Leona Di Marco, who lived in the US and later on in Mallorca, she was originally from Italy, said, "Enjoy to be a child again." And Christian Lupa speaks of the actor as the dream conveyor. If an actor stops doing that, he will stop being an actor. All teachers look there to be caring and available to build other truths, to be a sheath through which life will pass and it will become a new truth for others. And this dynamic as a constant of life, of an artistic life. The truth must be built, just like love, just like intelligence. And the artist must commit themselves for this construction, because evil, there's already too much in the world. And from our commitment, perhaps a film will be created, perhaps a photograph will appear, perhaps a poem or the first paragraph of a novel that will allow us to present ourselves, perhaps. A doll, another teenager doll that is looking, staring at her father's eyes, who's the manager, general manager of a very important textile international company. And after a discussion about fast fashion, these teenager eyes will say, "The truth, Dad, must be built, must be cultivated, just like love, just like intelligence."
O d'aquest compromís potser naixerà un poema o una dansa.
Or out of this commitment, perhaps a poem or a dance will emerge. And this will make us dream of our first love, because this dance or this poem will show an 80-year-old person, hand by hand, with his childhood friend in a hospital bed, with a kiss on a hand, to say goodbye,
La veritat
saying, Aina,
s'ha de construir.
the truth must be built, must be cultivated, just like love,
La intel·ligència.
just like intelligence.
O pot ser un conte. Ens evoca el despatx d'un advocat que, mirant...
Or maybe a story, a short story that leads us to the office of a lawyer after winning a case of a customer client he know for sure was to blame. He was guilty. He whispers to himself, looking at himself in the eye, with a tremulous voice, "The truth needs to be cultivated and built like love, like intelligence."
O pot ser un text humil com aquest,
Or maybe this could be a humble text, such as this one I am reading, between poetry and my drifting thoughts spoke aloud on a small island in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, with an attempt to convey my gratitude for this Trobades, for this encounter, this enormous gift that gives me the possibility of learning how to build truth. That's all. Thank you.
Pues,
Great. So your words still resonate in my brain. Would anyone like to maybe say something? I'll give the floor first to our two speakers. Maybe Karimah, could you elaborate, or can you just give a first impression to Agnès' words? Anything you would like to say? You are a great actress, but I didn't know you were such a great writer. It was an absolute delight, a pleasure to listen to you. It's been a great pleasure. So thank you very much for this gift you've given us tonight. Thanks for staying until the end, for bearing with us. It's been a long day, and of course, yes, you were generous enough to stay for this last last conversation.
Well,
would you like to say something?
Thank you so
Karimah?
much, Agnès. I was struck by your words on your daughter. What you said about the anticipation of her, and the fear that you also had bringing her into the world, and how you navigated that. We spoke a little bit over lunch, of course, and so I had that at the back of my head. And I found such beauty and truth in your words. Me also being a new mum myself, my son is just a few months younger than yours. And I hadn't realized this, actually, but I also felt the same way. And so, yeah, your words really resonated with me. What stuck out for me also was when you said that truth must be built, right? I'm paraphrasing. And I had a little voice in my head that was niggling at me, and I was like, well, no. Yes and no. Yes, every perspective is right because it's a perspective, right? But for me, something about it didn't entirely ring true. I feel like we are born inherently with a truth, and that we, for those of us that listen inwardly and really lean into what's within us, we slowly, or whatever pace it takes for us, we find that truth. And I wonder what you think about that, whether that also rings true for you as well.
When Sandra proposed that to me, when she conveyed the title of the talk, I found it absolutely beautiful, but it was a monumentally, I felt overwhelmed. The truth must be cultivated. So it was the flip side of the two sides of a coin, because all truths need to be cultivated. Those you agree with and those you disagree with. So it was insisting and repeating that the truth should be cultivated by us as creators. That is why it's so important to create from truth, based on truth, not from falsehood, from those things you don't believe in, from something that is just a mere shell or something that is just formal. That is why I always speak about commitment, a commitment as a creator, by using all your tools and means at your disposal and put them at the service of a single truth, understood as a piece, as a full work, as a space where art can thrive and transform us, so that we can all share and transform and become together something else. So it is true that we spoke about this space of life, and I'm happy to hear you, and as we had a chat with Marta about the braveness, how creators are really courageous and brave. Those female creators, we need to build and cultivate truth together, so our lives continue. We are workers. Our profession is really hard. I mean, it's a hard profession, and it's difficult to stop working for 8 hours. Our mind, our body, cultivate our body, to become mothers, you have to stop, to pause, because it's not like going to the gym to be fit. I mean, our job goes beyond us. So us, in our case, from the smallest factor, our artistic life has implications, and it's at the service of our life choice. This is what we've chosen for life. So healing wounds, caring for beauty, as it's been said today, that was therapy to me. I think this is absolutely necessary, essential. We need to embrace that idea and the collective, the community that is meeting, here in Menorca for these 2 days, that encourages me to keep on working on this line. Well, I think that is the perfect corollary to these two speakers, who in different ways you opened doors wide open to keep on, to follow suit, and to keep speaking about creation spaces with new voices coming from theater, from other fields, so that we can provide some breath, some air, as Agnès pointed out, and also Karimah. So we will reconvene tomorrow at 10 a.m. to continue with the places of invention of the possible. Thank you for accompanying us today.